What if I told you that spending $33 on toilet paper could be a status symbol? I'm Sammi Cohen, and this is Social Currency, a podcast that unpacks the stories that are shaping business, culture, and the intersection of the two. Welcome back to Social Currency. And on these solo episodes, I'm doing mini deep dives into topics at the intersection of business, tech, and culture. This solo episode is all about the second wave of direct-to-consumer brands where everyday essentials are being transformed into objects of desire, one luxury mundane item at a time. We've officially entered into what I'm calling the aesthetic utility era of consumer goods. This is when products are designed to serve a dual purpose. They handle your daily needs while simultaneously broadcasting your taste, values, and lifestyle choices to the world. Think about it. When was the last time you saw someone Instagram their generic hand soap? But show me a minimalist pump bottle of Aesop hand wash sitting on a marble countertop, and suddenly we're talking about aspiration, not just hygiene. This shift represents a fundamental change in how brands are approaching the direct-to-consumer model, and it's reshaping what luxury means to an entire generation of consumers. So let's rewind first to understand how we got here. The first wave of direct-to-consumer brands was all about disruption. Cut out the middleman, offer the same quality for less money, and build a relationship directly with customers. But that playbook has changed dramatically. Direct-to-consumer 1.0 was all about growth at all costs, burning through venture capital to acquire customers and build market share. Many of those brands struggled with profitability and eventually had to pivot or shut down, or if they are still alive, they are puttering along. Now, enter direct-to-consumer 2.0, where the focus has shifted to a more sustainable business model and lots of strategic growth. These new brands understand that they need to be profitable from day one, or at least very close to profitable, which means slower, more intentional rollouts and higher price points that actually support healthy margins. But here's the fascinating part. Instead of competing on price, these brands are competing on aspiration. They're taking the most mundane objects in our lives and asking, what if this could make you feel luxurious every single day? An example is the Skinny Confidential's $33 toilet paper that isn't just about bathroom essentials. It's about creating a daily touchpoint with luxury. Another example is Flamingo Estate's $48 olive oil that isn't just about cooking. It's about bringing the aesthetic of a California wellness retreat into your kitchen. So why are people willing to pay these premiums? It comes down to what I call micro-luxury, and this is the democratization of status symbols. Traditional luxury has always been about exclusivity. A $4,000 handbag signals wealth and status, but it's accessible to only a small percentage of consumers on a regular basis. But a $48 bottle of olive oil, that is within reach for many middle-class consumers, especially when it's positioned as an investment into their daily experience and aesthetic. For most people in the millennial and Gen Z demographic, they're living a very different kind of life than their parents did at their age. Many people are renting homes instead of buying them. They're delaying having children or maybe not even having children at all. And they're generally shifting to a more experiential mindset since they aren't able to afford many of the big ticket items that came much easier to prior generations. And the psychological shift is crucial. When someone buys that premium olive oil, they're not just purchasing a cooking ingredient. They're buying into a narrative about themselves. They're saying, I'm the type of person who values quality, or I deserve beautiful things in my everyday life, or I may not be able to afford to own a house with top-of-the-line kitchen appliances, but I can use great ingredients in my meals at home. And these brands have figured out that the modern consumers, especially millennials and Gen Z, want to curate their entire lives as aesthetic experiences. Social media has amplified this desire since every corner of your home could potentially end up in an Instagram story. So with this mentality, why not make your dish soap look as good as your skincare routine? There's also some sustainability here. So instead of buying one luxury handbag, consumers can spread that same budget across multiple elevated essentials. So each purchase feels more justified because the items serve a more practical purpose. So let's look at some brands that are nailing this approach. Flamingo Estate has turned pantry staples into art objects. Their honey comes in beautiful beautiful glass jars. Their $48 Heritage Extra Virgin Olive Oil bottles look like a work of art. Their labels feel artisanal and very much like farm to table meets luxury. They're not just selling food, they're selling a connection to California's agricultural heritage and a slower, more intentional way of living. And then the Skinny Confidential has their toilet paper, which takes this concept into its logical extreme. At $33 for what's essentially a basic necessity, they're proving that literally any product can be elevated through branding, packaging, and positioning. Now, I doubt that this product is flying off of their e-commerce site in terms of sales, but it's a brilliant case study of the extreme of premium branding for the most mundane of products. And then there are the Stanley tumblers, and although these aren't considered luxury items per se, it's a $45 tumbler that became as much of a status symbol as it was a vessel to hold your water. It became super popular through social media, and the company has brought in literally hundreds of millions of dollars from their signature products. Now, what these brands understand is that their customers aren't just buying their products. They're buying permission to feel luxurious in small daily moments. And from a business perspective, this model is genius. These brands can command premium prices while building genuine customer loyalty. When someone spends $48 on olive oil, they're getting emotionally invested in the brand in a way that's a lot harder to do with a $4 generic bottle. And the higher margins also mean that these companies can afford to grow more sustainably. They're not dependent on massive venture funding to acquire customers because each customer is a lot more profitable to them. And this allows for more thoughtful expansion and better long-term financial health. We're also seeing that these brands are expanding their ecosystem strategically. And as a customer, once you've bought into the Flamingo Estate aesthetic, you're more likely to purchase their honey, their candles, and their bath products. It becomes a complete lifestyle, not just selling individual products anymore. So what's next here? I predict that we will see this trend accelerate across every category. There's going to be pet food, cleaning supplies, even basic tools, and really any product that touches your daily life is a candidate for this aesthetic utility treatment. The underlying truth is that this isn't just about overpriced toilet paper. It's about a generation that wants to feel good about their consumption choices and surround themselves with beautiful, meaningful objects every single day. In a world where traditional markers of success feel increasingly out of reach, these brands are offering a new kind of luxury, one that fits into your grocery budget and makes your Tuesday morning routine feel a little more special. Welcome to the new future of retail, where everything ordinary becomes extraordinary, one aesthetically pleasing essential at a time. And that is it for today's episode. For next week's solo episode of Social Currency, we'll be diving into the wellness space and how it has completely transformed the way that people gather and spend their time. And for many, it's a new kind of religion. Thanks for listening, and I will see you next week. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of Social Currency. I've been wanting to launch this show for so long. I can't tell you how excited I am to do this and how thrilled I am that you're actually here listening. It means the world to me. If you liked what you heard today, please rate and review the podcast because it massively helps to support the work I do to bring the show to life. And if you want to keep up with the hottest business lore in real time, follow me on Instagram at Sammi Cohen Talks and subscribe to my newsletter, Social Currency, which is linked in the show notes. Social Currency is a production of Social Currency Media and Money News Network. The podcast is hosted and executive produced by me, Sammi Cohen. Social Currency is produced by the Money News Network team. See you next time.